And we're back.
How's it been going? We haven't actually talked, even though an episode dropped last week
No,
and the
there's
week
like
before. We have not
we did.
talked in almost 3 weeks.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been about 3 weeks. I want to clear the air with our audience. I want to clear the air with you. I have been like depressed. There's a lot of things going on right now that are really kind of stirring the pot in my situation. I did get a lot of work done on my house, my condo, this place. That closet now has flooring in it. There's a closet right around the corner there that now has flooring in it, which they have not had flooring since last September. Um, and I did that all. Yeah, I did that all over the last 2 weekends. Like, and then they weren't hard, but there were some hard cuts, and it was a really big pain in the butt, and I was really anxiety ridden about doing it, which is why I've been putting it off. So I finally just said, you know what, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna do this, and I'm just gonna work on it until it's done. And I actually managed to do it without getting angry and swearing and throwing things, which is usually what happens when I attempt a project like that. That's probably why I'm in therapy.
I learned
Um,
I learned a lot of swear words whenever my father would do stuff like that. So I don't blame you
I, I
there.
I don't know. I was just it was serene to be able to work on the place. So I was able to like get some stuff done, and of course, by the time we podcast, I was exhausted, and I'm like, I just don't. It was that, and like there, things are up in the air at work, of course, and um, I don't feel like I have a ton of free time because I'm spending more time working during the day. And so, like, when it gets to the weekend, it's like Sunday is like the one day that I usually get to relax a little bit. And what ends up happening is I run myself like ragged. By the time we get to podcast time, I'm just like sick or something. I've had horrible allergies. You have too.
Yep.
We were talking about that the other night, and it's just taking its toll. And so, like, I think I'm starting to come out of it. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not going to lie to the audience. This stuff that's going on with COVID right now, the fact that we have these case counts where they are, and the fact that clubs are closing across the country, and places are basically just not doing live music right now, with exceptions. Um, I know there's a couple places here that are still doing it. It's just really difficult for me to accept that we're still in a situation where we can't have some sort of like way for us to get out and play.
Yeah,
And
I um so just like you, I've been in the gutter. Had some family stuff that happened. I really can't discuss. But outside of that, um,
I know
and
enough.
yeah, you know enough, and plenty. That's more than I would want to know. Um, uh, you don't know this. My car got hit today, so I have to deal with
How
that.
is it totaled or is
It's
it
no,
okay?
it's drivable, but it's going to need a new. It's going to need a lot of new parts. Um, the front end of that thing isn't cheap. Um,
Oh yeah, and any work they do on those cars, they have to pull the whole front bumper and the radiator and stuff off the car. It actually
all the
swings out. Yeah,
Yeah, and the
they're
whole
wild.
those are going to have to get replaced anyway. The whole bumper, I
Hmm.
should say. It's shot, and those are things that happen, and that's why we have insurance. And that's why we do what we do.
Yeah,
Also,
but you
I
got to
had to.
coordinate all that, and like anything else in the middle of COVID-19, it's just that much more
Oh
difficult.
yeah, and I gotta have a rent a car while I got my car, and I gotta have,
Right.
and then I've got that's gonna be a few $1,000s. I mean, not out of my pocket, but and then I've got I went and got a COVID test because of my. Everybody looks at you like you're a leper when
Big
you've got.
surprise. No, it's like, yeah, but it's so funny because it's like big surprise. You had to have a COVID test.
Yeah, I
Like
know,
somebody at
right?
work had to have one, and everybody's like, "Did you have COVID? Did you have COVID?" It's
Yeah,
like, dude, I could get a COVID test. It like oh, my nose is running. I'm going.
yep,
Like here we go.
yeah. Uh, I was told tell them you came in contact with somebody and it gets it done faster, so that's what I did. But anyway, because I don't know that I didn't. Yeah, I did that. Um, and So I was surprised and shocked when I went to a waiting room where most people were wearing their masks half-assed, and I wanted to say, we're it. I
It
don't
it
know.
ain't like that here.
I don't
You're
want to
lucky
go.
if you see somebody in the waiting room with you.
Yeah,
Um,
the waiting room wasn't full, but it wasn't anywhere near as empty as it. It's at 50% capacity, and sure enough, they had about 50% capacity. But anyway, I don't want to go down that hole. That's a
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
rabbit
yeah, yeah,
hole of
yeah.
things we don't we don't want to go down. But the fact is that there's just been so many things going on that I didn't I and I've been like as far as like musically, even though there's some stuff that's allowing people back in. There's a select. I've got a gig coming up on December 20th that may or may not
Hmm.
happen. I mean, it should happen. It's a
Yeah, I
Sunday
mean,
afternoon gig. It's not really
but,
anything
but the fact that you're
major.
like, it may not. Like,
Right,
I mean, that's literally the reality for so many people right now.
right. But I was just watching this channel called Cover Band Central or Cover Band Cooperative or something like that. Anyway,
Hmm.
and I pretty much watched all their stuff in a day, so they don't really have a lot of content. Uh, but they talked about one of the guys is in. They're like us. They're separated by states. One of the guys
Right.
down in Alabama, and the other one's up in no Atlanta, Georgia, and the other one's up in North Carolina. Not really too far from me. And so they're talking about different things, and I listened to all the COVID shows. And as they went through the COVID time, they stopped doing it like we do a show anyway. They stopped doing their whole show, and they had like 18-minute, 20-minute segments. That's all they did. Um, and talked about some of the things. But anyway, one of the things they talked about was selling your band and blah blah blah, and how to get through this. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, they're both coming from a place like us who have jobs that are not really affected, and you're not really when you do that and you're coming from that kind of place. Um, to me, it's not. They had just interviewed a guy. This is the funny thing. This is the thing that brought this up. They had just interviewed a guy that is from Rochester, New York area, or Utica, or whatever. Now, and he plays in the Finger Lakes area, and that's what he does. A professional cover musician, and he he's obviously out of work. Never brought him back. Said, "Hey, how's it going? You know, how's your life now?" Because the guy was talking about having to live out of his car and how he did this and how he did that, and finally brought himself back up on his feet, so on and so forth. And then poof, yeah, he doesn't exist anymore. I'm thinking to myself, that's a perfect guy to get back on your show. Hey, what's up since this happened?
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Well, we had Danny Raven on here,
Yeah,
and I've been watching the Marvin like YouTube channel and all the other things that they're associated with him, and like it's pretty clear they're doing whatever they have to do at this point to get things going because they were literally up like playing gypsy jazz gigs in the park for tips. I mean, it's been pretty rough. And that is the reality of being a professional musician during a pandemic.
it is.
And I mean, this is a weird situation. It's a weird scenario. I think if anything, if anybody who lives through this situation as a musician and then comes out the other side still a musician, which I'm assuming most of us probably will,
Yep.
uh, you know, squirrel away some stuff, like put some money away because we tend to live pretty to the hilt. I mean, at least I know that most of my friends have got a lot of money wrapped up in their gear and they don't really have a rainy day, in case something happens, if their gear gets stolen or whatever. And you really got to prepare for that stuff. Insurance is a big deal. We've talked about insurance on the show before. I highly recommend, at very minimum, getting a rider on your homeowners. And if you are in a professional gigging band situation that has some sort of compensation going on and there's contracts and that kind of thing, you're definitely going to need to get some musical instrument insurance. It just in case your homeowners comes in and says, no, that's a business item. You have to be very confident in your writer and how that works. So, but anyway, yeah, it's just for me. I'm looking at this whole situation. I just say it's an ugly tunnel, and I'm starting to see light at the end of it. We're seeing these vaccines on the horizon and things, and I'm like, whether you're going to get it or not, the reality is a vaccine is probably going to clear a lot of this up, and we're going to be back to gigging next year.
Yeah.
But it'll probably be late next year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm figuring. I'm hoping it'll be earlier next year, but it's probably going to be late next year. Now that being said, so like I've spent a good deal of the pandemic, quote unquote, working on music because that's what everybody says they're doing right now, right?
Right.
I have written 3 or 4 songs 4 songs, I think, since the pandemic started, and that is pitiful, in my opinion. I should have been able to write a lot more than that, but because I'm going through a lot of emotional stuff as a result of being cooped up and doing all these different things, it's like it's become a very difficult proposition. But something occurred to me the other night. I was having a conversation with one of our show listeners actually about gear, and I'm sitting there going, you know, I'm spending an awful lot of time stressing out over like one particular piece of gear that I really shouldn't.
Yeah.
And I was kind of just like taken aback, and I realized for a second, I was like, I should be focusing on actually playing, which we've talked about on the show before. But not only that, like I need to be playing every day in a specific way. So if that means that like I spend, half hour coming up with new stuff and just record some riffs and, that kind of thing, or even if it's just like, hey, um I need to be inspired to play or whatever. And something occurred to me after I went to the Great Lakes Guitar Pickups headquarters and got to play, a bunch of different amps. This was like the first time I've actually sat down in a store that had, unique stuff that I hadn't seen before. And it opened my eyes to a lot of things. So I got the Kemper. It's sitting next to me. It's in its bag. It is now on reverb. And there was a long thought process that actually went into this, but and I've been talking about on the show, like potentially that Kemper's not going to stay with me forever. It was never bought as a long-term thing. I think some people, because I've had people actually reach out to me since I put up the listing and threw it up on my Facebook page. I've had people reach out to me and be like, "I'm surprised," and I'm like, "Why?" I don't have any attachment to, and I've said this on the show before, especially to digital gear. I don't really have any attachment to it. It does its job. It sounds like other stuff, and I'm more attached to the sound than I am the equipment itself. And so for me, it's like, if I really like this sound, I can go buy the real deal, for the amount of money it costs. Actually, I think that's the Kemper's biggest Achilles heel. It's for the powered one, it's $2,600 with the remote. And if you buy it without the remote, what are you doing? Like, if you're in a studio environment, that's one thing, and you're only going to use it as a studio tool. Maybe you don't need the remote. But the vast majority of people that are buying a Kemper are guys like me, and you got to get the remote with it. So you're going to spend a lot of money, right? Think about the things that you could buy with $2,600, right? The buying power that actually is. You can go get a handmade, boutique, hand-wired, turret-boarded amp from the likes of Greer or
Milkman.
Milkman, or in my case, I'm looking at Dr. Z.
What is it? Doesn't JHS have one? Don't
yeah,
they
but I think theirs is actually a Milkman, I think.
I think it is, and it's like a special more is more, or more is better.
Yeah, but
thing,
yeah, louder is better or whatever. But anyway, I think so. Even the Wampler amp is also, I believe, built by Milkman or somebody like that. But anyway, the point is, okay, now I know everybody says the Kemper does so much more. It does so much more, but it doesn't do it better. I mean, listen, it is like a facsimile, right? So if anybody has never done a Xerox copy in your life, you know that the Xerox copy looks pretty damn good. It looks virtually great, but there are drawbacks. Like, and I feel that I've been straightforward with them on the show, but like some of the drawbacks are, listen, if you don't have access to the real amp, you can't tweak it the way that you would. And so what you're going to end up with is somebody else's profile that I'm attempting to, add EQ on top of that to try and make it fit what I'm doing. Now, I've had good results with that. I've been using Tone Junkie profiles. He was on the show. And honestly, that was part of probably the biggest problem I had with like admitting to myself that I really only use like 4 sounds. I had Tone Junkie on here. And I'm like, I bought the everything pack. I got it at a deal, and I was kind of like going through these amps, and I'm like, none of this stuff really appeals to me. And I realized, like, here I got 4,000 profiles or something, and it's like 4,000 profiles, but I don't need any of them. I just want a couple of good amps, like, and I just need them in the room with me so I can just hit like 3 or 4 knobs and be done. That's the other thing. So I used to be the guy that was like, I liked Mesa Boogies because they had a lot of control. I liked Rivera because they had the active EQ. I like, so I like the advanced idea of how you could tweak an amp and you could make it do all these different things. But as I get older, I'm realizing that's the dumbest thing for me for me to want, because that just means I'm just gonna sit there and twiddle knobs more, right? Like, I don't need that. I just want it to sound good. Like, I don't care if it's a tone knob or if it's a 3-band EQ, the presence. Like, I just don't need any of that. So the Kemper has a lot of hits and it has a couple of misses. I've made it very clear on the show that I didn't like the Kemper drives. I don't.
And it's only been made worse.
Well, it didn't get made worse. I mean, they enhanced it, but okay. So we'll get there. But I actually want to talk about modulation for a minute. So one of the effects I rely upon, and the only thing I've ever actually built a preset for the Kemper, like modulation wise, is Univibe, right? Like, I've talked about the Univibe a billion times on this show.
I mean, like my Univibe back there, right behind me.
And I nailed it pretty much out of the gate. Like, I had the thing a month and I had figured out how to dial it the way I wanted it, and then I just basically stored it as a preset and I put it on everything. I have a real Univibe. Like, I have a Unicorn, right? And I've had them as the Deja Vibe when it was like the thing. And I've had other vibe pedals. I had the Viscous Vibe for a while, and the digital vibes like that. This is not that great. It's okay. But when I compared it to my Unicorn, there really wasn't much comparison. Like, the Unicorn was definitely better. And it was just that because it's all being done in software, I feel like it affects the tone differently than if it was being done in an analog way. It's just it's like a weird way to describe it, but it just wasn't doing certain things that the was doing. Like, there was more depth to the Unicorn. The Unicorn was definitely more complex sounding. Like, there was more harmonic distortion going on in there. And so I was like, well, it's not a big deal. I can still use it as a tool of convenience, right? But when they actually did finally unleash new drives, and here's why I got frustrated, and we may have actually talked about this on the show, but they released the Kemper drive, which is one of the new drives, which I'll talk about here in a second, and then they released an OCD. Now, the OCD in there is pretty good. I mean, again, it's still a digital emulation inside of a digital product, so your mileage may vary, right? It's like putting an OCD in a Line 6 pod or any of those other products, and your experience may vary. I would say that their Stompbox emulations are still slightly behind their competitors in Fractal and Helix, but I will say this much: the OCD sounded better than the one in the Helix, in my opinion. Now, here's where it gets dicey. So skip back over to the Kemper drive. What they did, now they already had a drive in there that was basically just a tube screamer, right? They built another tube screamer with additional parameters, and you could dial it and you could make it more like a Blues Breaker, or you could make it more like a Klon. There's some contouring options that can make it more like those other things. But at the end of the day, it's an updated version of their existing tube screamer with additional features. And in my opinion, that was not what people wanted. We wanted for lack of a better term, an IR of a tube screamer. We wanted an IR of a Klon. We wanted an IR of a King of Tone. We wanted an IR of the basic drive staples. And they just didn't deliver. And I understand why they can't just make an IR, because you can't emulate the EQ controls and your activity and all that stuff. But it just felt like a miss. It was like, here, you've been waiting for this for like 3 years. I mean, people have been waiting for it for a lot longer than that. And when I bought in, people were waiting for it. And I had the Kemper for 2 years, roughly. I will have had it 2 years in June, I think.
Yeah.
I'm approaching that now. And I'm getting the realization that they underdelivered. And I know people are like, there are people in the community that are like really latched onto this, and they're like, yeah, Kemper drive. No, it's really good. It's much better. It's a tool of convenience, and it does everything it needs to do. I disagree wholeheartedly. If you take a clean profile and you drive it with the Kemper drive, it sounds like trash. It's meant to be a booster for a dirty profile. I mean, that's really what it is, or a semi-dirty profile, like on the edge of breakup. And I guarantee you there will be a few people that write me and give me hate mail. I didn't like it. I didn't think it was that great. Now I was able to get my King of Tone, and like create a preset that sounded like my King of Tone settings, but it was just there was some magic missing there. Like the low end was slightly different, and again, harmonics were different. The crystal lattice was not there. No, I'm kidding. It was not what I expected. And actually, that wasn't like, didn't leave a bitter taste in my mouth. That wasn't like the straw that broke the camel's back or anything, but it was like, I'm already going through these feelings of doubt. That happens, and I'm kind of like, I'm just kind of over it. Now, here's the fun part, right? So I'm selling my Kemper. I'm selling it in the bag that I bought, the nice bag, which I bought like right at the beginning of COVID. And I'm selling it with the additional cables that somebody would need, like including 2 extra Ethernet cables for the remote, 2 Ethercon cables as well with the remote. And I'm hoping to get $2,400 for it. And I really want to do a local deal because I really don't want to have to ship this thing, especially not during COVID. It's just one more pain in the butt I don't need. And I put all this pretty package together, and like, I haven't had a whole lot of activity. Nobody's really even looking at it. And I realized something. There's a fatal flaw in their marketing. They're calling the profiler, just the regular old profiler with no power amp, an amp. And so when I say I have the powered Kemper, you think that Reverb search listings would pull it up. No. It's like a disaster over there. I don't know why Christoph Kemper marketed the original one as an amp. It is a preamp at best and a modeler at worst, if you want to call it that. I still think that that's a great product. I'm keeping my profiles, which I believe in software licensing rules and restrictions, so there will be no commercial profiles on my Kemper when it goes out of here.
Yep.
I will restore it to factory stock. And I'm going to keep my profiles because I'm hoping that at some point they have either a what do they call it? A plugin,
Yep.
or another product, maybe a smaller form factor, more portable, without the effects, that you could buy to put at the end of your pedal board. And
Yeah, I'm surprised
that
they
would be a
haven't.
really cool tool.
I am surprised they haven't done that because, to be honest with you, it seems like that's really the marketing of that thing is, hey, we've emulated your amp and your speakers. Okay, I just want. Can you imagine if they could get that into something like the Stomp, and then the rest of your board, just like everybody else that uses the Stomp, they put the Stomp, and then the rest of their board is well, a lot of people they use regular old pedals in front of it if they want pedals. If not,
Do you
then they
know?
use the Stomp, just the Stomp.
Do you know how jealous I am when I go to an open mic, like back when the world was working, right?
Yeah.
How jealous I was when I'd go to an open mic. And like, here I'd reel in my big Gator case, which is still sitting behind me. I'm keeping that because I'm actually gonna get new foam for it. I don't know what I'm gonna put in it yet, but
Right.
it's too cool a case to get rid of.
Right.
I might even put a pedal board in it or something. But I got the Gator case, right? And I'd wheel this thing in, and then like the other guy would show up for the open mic, the other guitar player or whatever, and he'd come in and he'd just have an amp, plop it on the stage, plug in, turn on, and they stick a mic in front of it. And I'm like, that's freaking easy. Like, what the hell? I got a remote I have to hook up, the Kemper itself. I got an XLR cable that's got to go to front of house. I got to explain to them that they don't need a direct box. Like, I mean, it's a nightmare. Like, I actually think that it's the worst thought out device for playing live because I don't think the Kemper was ever intended for playing live. I think the Kemper was originally a studio design. And then they went with it when people were like, "Oh, well, you can put a power amp with it." Well, of course you can put a power amp with it. You can put a power amp with anything that puts out sound. And
Yeah.
then people were using it live, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to include a power amp now." And it just spiraled like and escalated, right? So now it's this live product that has this bastardized system of a foot controller in a form factor that doesn't fit in a rack unless you buy the rack specific version for it. Honestly, this tool should have been looking at the Axe Effects when they launched, because the Axe Effects was already out, and they should have been like, we need a rack form factor. We don't need anything else.
Well, yeah. I mean, they've done it right with the stage. I mean, that's a lot better.
And how long did it take them to get there?
Oh
7
yeah,
years.
years. Yeah.
7 years. I
So
actually thought about just dumping mine and getting a stage.
yeah,
I thought about it really long and hard, but I was like, it would be worthless for me to do that. I would pick up a used stage for maybe 1,500, and I would sell mine for 24. I mean, after reverb fees, which are, well, that's the next topic here. It would just be absurd. So we've covered the reverb fee hike.
yeah.
And
Well, you're
you don't,
experiencing it firsthand now.
yeah, you haven't sold anything on reverb in a while.
Never. Never
Maybe
sold
Yeah,
anything
right.
on Reverb.
That's the way. Right.
I don't
So
think I bought anything on Reverb either.
I have 49 sales, I think, on Reverb, something like that. Like I've got an extensive history with Reverb, let me tell you. And I've actually never had a bad sale. I've never had somebody come back to me and be like, "You didn't do this, you didn't do that," and certainly never had one we couldn't work out. Right. So I've had good luck with it, and I'm kind of cool over there. But I looked at my seller's fees, because they have a little sidebar that actually tells you, like, this is what this is going to cost when you sell it at this price, or at least how to calculate it, right? And I'm like looking at it, and I'm going, I'm going to spend like $200 to sell a $2,000 item. That's freaking nuts. Like, it's just ridiculous. And I don't really feel like that's a service that should be that way. Now, granted, I know eBay has always had exorbitant fees, and when you use an online service, you're going to pay, right? Like, you're going to pay through the nose. But I'm at the point where I'm like, I hate Facebook. I've been off Facebook. If you haven't seen me on Facebook, you know why now. I'm like, I might go put it in Facebook Marketplace. I think I might, like, at least the fees won't be 5% plus 2% for processing. That's crazy. That's almost 10% of my sale. What is Reverb selling my product for me? Because last time I checked, I fill in my details, I take my own photographs, and then I put my listing on social media wherever I can, so I can get people to look at it. Because their search engine sucks for this product.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that it's difficult for me. All right, so if in the days before trading, well, it still exists in some places, but in the days before trading stuff in, you had another option. You could consign it.
Right, and I could do that. I have a local shop where I can consign, but
and
consignment, during COVID, that's a joke.
Yeah, well, consignment fees were upwards of 20%. I mean, that was considered a high consignment fee. There were some that were lower, but 20% was about where you would be. So, if you looked at it that way, you would have lost $400 on a $2,000 item. So
I would guess that if I were to consign my Kemper, I could probably get $2,500 for it.
Well, yeah, if you consigned it, you would go $2,500. The problem is, what are you going to take home? And of course, I know you have a more personal bond with the consignee that you're talking about.
Well, no, I know. I'm just saying, like, at some point, if the fees are low enough, it makes more sense to consign.
Right.
And I don't think Reverb is actually competing with consigners. I think consigners is almost like the way of the dinosaur at this point.
Right.
So.
Right, and that's part of the problem. Is that so? Consignments are tough. Obviously, selling it at a shop, I don't care. Guitar Center, mom and pop, I don't give a crap.
Yeah,
Nobody's going to give you. Nobody's
right, you're going to get 50%. You know, right. Or if you're really lucky, you might get 60%.
Exactly. So, well, and of course, you know, we've talked about this before. Every Guitar Center does things differently. Our Guitar Center, we try to give 60%, and a full. If your item is decent at 60%, but still 60% is giving up 40% of it. Let's face it, that's not a great deal.
No.
you and I talked about Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace has a thing you can directly pay now right through Facebook. You message each other because that's how the deal is done anyway, and then you can just boop. I entered in the amount of money, and
Yeah.
you get the money, and then Facebook says you have the money, and it goes into your account, and you hand over the item that fast. Matter of fact, when I got my dog, the woman said, "Do you want to use Facebook?" I said, "I don't want Mark Zuckerberg having anything to do with my checking account." But you know, but anyway, that's just me, and that's just me being weird. Um, so I use PayPal, but that's beside the point. The fact is that it's there. Um, the you know, it's really hard when we buy gear. I don't care what gear it is, and I don't care how you do it. When I bought this thing, that guy never had to give up a penny, right?
Right.
He made the sale. I gave him money. He gave me an item, and that was it. And right now, that thing's worth double the money. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't complain. It's
Yeah.
literally worth double the money right now on everywhere, in the shape that it's in. So and it's in excellent shape, by the way. So anyway, my point is that there's this. It's really hard. We're always. I always wonder about these people who flip stuff, and not just in the guitar community. I mean, I see it everywhere, comic books and Funko Pops and all kinds of things. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you tie up? Because it seems like your money is always tied up in the next thing you're getting ready to flip. You know?
Yeah. They have to get insane deals in order to make that a lucrative thing.
Yeah.
And there are podcasts devoted to it. But actually, if you listen to them, like they'll tell you like the deal has to be this, and it's crazy low. But I know that there are also guitar podcasts and stuff where people have talked about flipping gear,
Yep.
and when I hear them talk about how they structure their deals, I just laugh. I'm like, you guys aren't making anything. You're
Yeah.
making
No.
peanuts, if that, if that.
Oh, I watched American Flippers or American Pickers, and
Yeah,
I'm like, they go, yeah, we would do this and we would get this much. I'm like, you didn't even talk about how much it costs of gas to get out there, or food when you're on the way, you didn't talk about any of that stuff. And I know it's because A&E is flipping a bill, but that's beside the point. Anyway, the what I was getting at is this: if you're flipping gear, right? You got to make you. Everybody wonders why is it that stores charge so much? It's because a lot of your money is in assets. I mean,
right.
it's in physical assets. You're sitting there on a piece of equipment. Let's say I buy this guitar, right? Let's say it was the 60% thing. So 60%, it's easy to do. It's $1,600, right? Or no, 60% of 2,000 is 1,200, right? $1,200. Yeah, I got $1,200. Yay, I can make $800 on it. But now, how long has it got to hang there? And I got to pay taxes
Right.
to the state because I've got an asset hanging on my wall.
And that asset, if it doesn't sell, is costing you money because you could put an asset in its place that will sell.
That's right.
So that's
every hanger is worth money. And so
right.
the fact is that those are costs we have to think about, right? I just find it. I was watching Music Is Win's channel, and he went into Guitar Center, and he got himself a Sir is how you say it, right?
Yeah.
Got himself a Sir, Telly style Sir. Really nice guitar. I mean,
right. Yeah, they're well thought of, and
oh yeah,
that's fine.
Beautiful, gorgeous guitar.
How many pedals did he trade to get a Sir?
I don't know, but all I know is he did it at Guitar Center, and he got $2,700 in trade.
It was a used Sir, right? They don't. Sir's not a dealer at Guitar Center.
Yeah. It had to be you. Well, I don't know. I'm
wondering if they are, because they're $2,700 new, and if they're selling that guitar $2,700 used, and he went in and traded a bunch of crap for it, that's ridiculous.
He paid 22, so it had to be used. I think it was 22 and change. Okay. But he was looking at a 27,
$400 depending on options.
So. Yeah, he was looking at a much more expensive Fender compared to the Sir, and he was kind of doing that. And it was a Fender Custom Shop Telly versus the Sir.
Right.
And he went with the Sir. there was that part of the drama of the whole thing. I don't care.
Yeah, well, he
And
got the cool points for getting the sir, right? I mean,
but he
that's
got yeah
basically what's going on there.
yeah really. I mean yeah, and it's cool and it's a really nice guitar and I can't I can't knock the deal he got. But I'm just thinking to bring in $2,700 worth of guitar of pedals. If you think about that, that's 60% of something. So he had like $5,000, close to $5,000. It's in the $4,600 range of pedals, right? That he brought
Yeah.
in to sell. That's a load of pedals, right? That's a buttload of pedals. I can't even imagine 4,000 something dollars worth of pedals sitting around here, and yet those were things he was like, I'm going to sell. I'm going to get rid of something, and they had to be a lot of pedals that people that vendors send these podcasters.
Yeah. Well, I laugh because you're saying like $4,000 worth of pedals. I know I at one point had $4,000 worth of pedals.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just saying it's close to $5,000 worth of pedals, and he got rid of them.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
Talked about the window.
yeah, I mean, you didn't get rid of all of them, did you?
I got rid of stuff I shouldn't have.
You did because you got that
That Ethos Overdrive came back to me. It's
Helix.
actually sitting right next to me because that has been my primary amp for like the last 3 weeks.
I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see it's plugged in. I have the V, and I plugged it in because I was like, I look at these things. I mean, right now, I could make a lot of money on that thing. So I'm sitting there going,
Yeah, you're doing the same thing I've done in the past, where you're looking at a piece of gear and you're going, "Do I like it as much as it's worth?"
I could flip this and turn it into two really nice guitars, or one really really nice guitar, right? So I'm like, and I gotta hang on to it, and I'm thinking I get my grandkids. Boy, that thing. I don't even have grandkids yet, but when they exist and when they get older. But anyway, so I've been playing it because all these channels, like, I always wonder how Trogley makes money, and I think I know now. Trogley has a lot of fans who send stuff in, and what they do is they have him take their stuff apart and do, which I guess there's some value to it. I don't know what the value is. I don't want somebody else to. I can take my guitar apart, take pictures of it, put it back together. I don't need some weirdo doing it. I don't need to I'm not saying Charlie's a weirdo. That's not what I mean. Just somebody that
I don't know.
know.
I mean,
No, I just need that. I don't know somebody that who the hell is that? I don't know. But hey, I'm gonna send my guitar halfway across the country, and I'm gonna let him charge me $150 to take pictures and do a video, and then pack it back up and send it out to me, which he's very good at, by the way. That guy is meticulous at that stuff. I'm not saying he's not good at it. I'm not saying he's not good at the whole overall. Geez, he takes weights and he does like. I'm thinking, man, I'm in the wrong business. But yeah, I mean, there's another guy though. He gets these really rare finds. These Guitar Center and Sweetwater and everybody else's stuff, and they come in, and he gets on the list, and he'll shell out $8,000-$10,000, but he'll flip that bad boy right over. And like those Tom, we talked about this. We haven't talked about it on the podcast yet.
No, we should talk about it.
So I guess it's a good time.
Let's think of the latest thing. Yeah.
So okay, recently, and he got two of these. He got the VOS model and the actual signature model. So there's whatever you call it, the super custom shop model, which Adam Jones is Adam Jones.
Yeah, I believe it's Adam Jones.
Okay,
the guy from Tool, right?
Right. The Tool guy. Tim Allen, Signature Guitars, right? And so Tim Allen puts out I keep saying Tim Allen now. Adam Jones puts out this 1979 Les Paul Custom, which really bites because that's the year my Les Paul Custom was a 79 Les Paul Custom.
I have many things that I want to talk about with this story.
But let me,
yes.
So I want to, I'll just roll through the part fast and you can pick it up. So, Gibson puts out two models. One's like $12,000. It's an almost exact replica. It's got all the right scratches and dents and dings and whatever it is that you guys want to pay too much money for. I'm not gonna put put you down for it. I just think it's a waste of cash. But hey, it's your cash. Do what you want
Hey,
to it. Throw it,
right? Like,
throw it in the
it's your
wind.
money.
Yeah,
Like,
throw it in
I'm
the wind
selling
and
a
light it on
Kemper.
fire.
It's my money.
Yeah,
don't
I don't care.
care about what I
Exactly,
need.
and I honestly don't care. I honestly don't get it. You get a lot of people. Wow, you could buy a lot of. You could have bought
Why
10,000.
don't you just profile the amps you want to buy?
Why didn't you just buy a Firefly or 20? Because I didn't want a freaking Firefly. I wanted Dan Jones's freaking.
That's another one
amp.
that kills me. We'll talk about that too.
Yeah. So, anyway, so they do their thing, right? They get and there's this. So they ship, right? They ship to the retailers, and the retailers get the amplifiers. Or I mean the guitars. You said amplifiers a second ago. The guitars. Well, Sweetwater's truck's coming along, poop-a-doop-a-doo, going through Fort Wayne, Indiana, do-do-do-do-do, and it stops to get gas or some other way, right? And, oh my, I'm a trucker. I must leave the back end open while I hope no one looks in there and steals a specific pallet, because that's what happened.
Yeah.
Somebody stole the
specific pallet and stole all of them.
Pallet that all of Sweetwater's $90,000 worth of guitars, one pallet, one lift, one shot, gone.
Unsaleable on the aftermarket.
What I can understand. Get in there, whoosh, take one. Woo, I got one. But you took them all, really? What did you think you were going to get out of this?
So obviously Gibson's retaliation for this is we're going to do the same run for him again, and we're going to make them different so that we know the real ones from the ones that were stolen, so that we can prosecute the people who stole them. So now the funny thing is, so now they're admitting they're going to make a second run. These guitars are going to show up somewhere at some point.
Oh, they have.
Because these are very unique. And when that happens, then it's like, this is just dumb, because now you've made your double run, right? And they have to, because they have to make good for the customers,
right?
For the Sweetwater.
For the numbers that
right.
And $90,000. That's at 10. You think that's a lot, right? But remember, those were, I think, $6,000 or $8,000 for the cheap one.
Yeah, the $6,000 for the number one
and
edition.
12
with all the roadwear is like 12,000 or something.
Yeah, 12,000 for the other one. So that's not a lot of guitars. That's like 10 guitars, maybe total, or 12 guitars.
All right. So the thievery thing of this is just dumb.
Yeah.
And I think we've covered that well enough already.
Yeah.
But here's what just really chaps my ass about this whole thing.
Okay.
Dude, this is a 1979 Silverburst Les Paul Custom. You know, a $6,000 79 Silverburst Les Paul Custom. I could go buy a 79 Les Paul Custom right now. And it may not be a Silverburst, because I don't think that was a thing. I think that's like a unique thing. I could go buy one right now. What are you doing? Get out of here. No. We're being photobombed. I got to deal with this.
Feel like
what are you doing here? Get out of here.
She's your solid...
Something?
She's your solid cold dancer. Let me write the time down.
Yeah, I mean, you can leave it in. I don't care. But I'm just like, what are you doing out here? Dude, I'm podcasting. We're in the middle of an episode. No, I don't want to hear it.
Oh, that's funny.
Go to bed.
Oh my God. Okay, go ahead.
So, 1979 Silverburst Les Paul Custom.
Yep.
You can get a Les Paul Custom for $6,000.
That's right.
It is 79.
And nothing was.
Silverburst.
I'm not saying that 79 was a bad year. I'm not saying it's a good year. I'm just saying
it's not desirable.
Right. Exactly.
This is not like a 54 Strat. It's
right.
not a 59 Les Paul. It's not a desirable year, folks. It's not a mid 60s SG. It's not like, this is just here. I play a 79, so obviously everybody must want the same 79 I have. It kills me that, like, oh yeah, the Norlin era. Everybody's like the Norlin era. And now it's like, here, we're gonna reissue a guitar for the Norlin era. What the hell? What is wrong with people?
So now the Silverbursts, which used to be, you could have picked up when you and I started this podcast, you could have picked up a 79 Silverburst for like $6,000 or like $3,000. $3,200.
Yeah,
Okay, because that was actually
I
the
knew
cheap
people
one.
that had them.
Now, all of a sudden, silver bursts are $8,000 to $10,000 on the market.
Yeah, and like I get it. So Adam Jones he's not my guy, but he's an influential guitar player amongst a lot of people. But I wouldn't consider him a guitar player's guitar player,
Yeah,
right?
me
Like
either.
unless you're really into progressive music or something, like maybe you go down the Tool path. But for most people, I would think that like they would kind of look at this and go, seriously, an Adam Jones reissue, like an Adam Jones specific guitar, like there's a market for that at $12,000. Um, I assume there are Tool collectors that will buy this and just hang it on their wall. I assume there are probably some guitar players that are big fans of Tool that will buy this and
Well,
probably play it or
so
hang it on the wall.
so there was a guy they interviewed on another podcast. They interviewed a guy who was one of the ones whose one was stolen from Sweetwater, and then they're making him a new one. He's in a
Sure.
Tool. This makes sense. He's in a Tool
Yeah.
cover band. He
Right.
He literally plays Tool songs. His band is, I don't know.
Can we talk
It's
for a minute?
Meet Me Out Back or Pay Me Out Back or something like that.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever.
Just making sure. I don't know what the name of the band was.
I
But I'm
don't
just saying.
think.
Here's what's funny on Reverb, you can get a 79 Les Paul custom for $4,000. Okay, there's one on here. There was a made in Japan. I don't know how the hell that's real, but for $1,100, I don't think that's real. But
No, I don't think that's legit. But
$3,500 for a 79 custom, a black one like I had when I was a kid. Okay.
yeah.
But the second you hit, there's actually a really nice natural blonde for $4,500. But the second you hit that, a black beauty with 3 pickups for $4,900. But the second you hit the one that's that price, $8,700, the cheapest one. I guess there's one that's $75. As soon as people realize how shit that guitar is, they're gonna go, oh crap, you know what? Why did I spend that much money on it? Because I'm a Tom Jones fan or an Adam Jones fan or whatever. Seriously? I mean,
do you think a Tom Jones fan's gonna buy that?
Tom Jones might buy one.
Unusual.
It's not unusual. That's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah, yep. I think that might be the episode title.
It's not. Yep, there we go. Episode title. It's not unusual. Yeah, go ahead.
I just this is about par for the course. So like I've had my hands on some Norland era Gibsons recently, actually.
Okay.
And I don't think they're as bad a guitar as people have made them out to be. They're not
Some of them
$6,000 good.
Yeah, but
They're not
some of them-
$6,000 good.
No.
Oh yeah, no. Like an SG made out of walnut that's like 40 pounds. Like yeah, no, for sure. Like there are definitely design problems in there and stuff, and like we know they were using sandwich bodies and stuff. But if you
Yep.
find the right one, like and I have a feeling there are more right ones than there are wrong ones. But I have a feeling there's a lot of wrong ones. And so it's kind of like I just reissuing something that in my mind is not a classic. I don't consider anything that happened in the Norland era to really be classic per se.
Here's what kills me. So that particular guitar, I can understand the Jimmy Page one they did, which by the way, this was quite a few years ago, but they did the Jimmy Page one. That was $12,000, and they were on the market the next day for like $20,000 or something. But
yeah, but that's a guy that's identified with
right.
the ball.
That's exactly. Or when they did the Access Alex Lifeson one, that's another one he was identified with. But to have this just almost sounds like a joke. I mean, and excuse me, guys, if the Tool fans maybe they could chime in and say, hey guys, this guy really is. I listened to Gibson put up a song that I guess the guy from Tool wrote for the release of the guitar, and they have it up on Gibson's site. It's like this 7-minute wash of, to me, it sounds like they took they went to a praise and worship thing took the board and then just muted all the other channels and just had the guitar. It was just dull. I mean, to me, it was dull. It was boring. I mean,
I grew up with Tool music around me.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, being somebody that's got Tool records in my collection and has sort of been like an off-the-cuff fan at times, I do not, when I think Adam Jones, I do not think innovative electric guitar player. I think a guy that's like kind of artistically visionary, like I'm going to lay out music and then we're going to perform it. Not so much like, hey, look at me, I'm going to play, you know, something that reinvigorates people's desire to play the instrument. Or
Yeah.
and listen, I know there are people that like Tool is the band for them,
Oh, yeah,
and they're
yeah.
gonna buy, and they will buy this.
Yeah.
But I just don't like. This seems like the most illogical choice to
And-
me. For like, oh, we could get another Jimmy Page model, or we could do, you know, and
Well,
they did this.
Yeah, but here's the bigger part. I get it. If you're a big Tool fan and you want this one because it's an exact replica or it's a VOS of what he did, I get it. But why would you go buy one that is just one of the stock ones that came out in '79? Because it's admitted a million times that the '70s models, there was no consistency. It was just, here's a sandwich body, a lot of them. That's why the customs were black, because they didn't want you to know what the wood looked like.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I would love to know what their spec for building this guitar was, because I'm willing to bet their custom shop equivalent of his special guitar is probably built to a higher quality standard than the Norlin era one was.
oh yeah. They announced this guitar, jeez, a long time ago.
Yeah. I remember that. But that's like, do you think this one has a pancake body?
No.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't.
No, they're not gonna make. And that's the thing. It's not his guitar, and it's not got his DNA or.
Right.
It's, I don't know. I just.
That's my point though. So like, this is just kind of silliness. Like, I get it. Like having all the electronics, the period correct, the look, especially for a cover band. But that's not $6,000, folks. You want the look of the guitar? This is not the $6,000 one here is not road worn. Okay.
Right. But
it's my understanding that it's just a bone stock like '79 with the removed cover and the pickups that match.
Yep. But if you really wanted one, you could have gone out and bought one and not hike the price of them. It's I don't know. Is there really that much demand for them? I don't know. I don't. And look, I was never a Tool fan. I couldn't name one Tool song if you had a gun to my head.
Hey Jim, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Are you looking at the Tool guitar right now?
No, I can be.
There's one. Well, you don't have to, but there's one little glaring thing I just noticed. The neck pickup is backwards.
Oh, I know. That was another thing that.
Why? I mean, if he did it on his, I get it. Okay, but why?
Let's see.
That'll bug the hell out of me. I'm gonna see this guitar in my dreams now, with a reverse pickup. Like,
is it?
Yes, the neck pickup is reversed. The screws go forward.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it's supposed to be.
No.
The screws to the neck. The screws are to the top of the neck, and the screws are to the
They're
bottom.
supposed to be on his 1979 Les Paul recreation. The picture I am seeing has the screws towards the bridge.
Oh,
on the neck pickup.
Oh God, I see that.
That's just part of the design. But I'm like,
is that? Hold on.
I bet his.
His is too. His is like that. I'll be damned.
Which means he took the pickup out at some point and probably just
swung it around,
threw it in there backwards and not realizing it, and just used it that way for years, which is fine, and that's a quirk, right? Like that's something that's interesting.
Yeah.
By the way, I do see that the body material is listed as solid mahogany.
Yeah.
Does that mean one piece of soft mahogany? Does it mean pancake?
I'll be damned. And there's him and Cesar. I don't remember his last name, but from Gibson with the thing. I did not notice that neck pickup was in backwards because there's some pictures where they show like they were I guess not very correct pictures where the neck pickup is the right way. But yep, you're right. It's supposed to be the wrong way. It's supposed to be. You are correct. I'll be damned. I'll be
It's just a
damned.
weird quirk that I noticed. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yep.
I guess that's the thing here.
I did not realize that.
And the neck pickup says reverse mounted. It says custom bucker, so
Yep.
it's some weird thing that they've designed for this guitar specifically.
The custom bucker.
Yeah, I don't think I
Well,
want a custom bucker. I
no.
have a guy that'll make me a custom bucker if I want it.
I like my.
Um,
I honestly, and I kid sometimes, but I love that guitar. So I don't care. I just don't care. I don't care who else plays one like these. I just play it. But the thing I laugh about the most is that not people who are look, like I said, you do your thing, man. I mean, you've had people talking shit to you about selling your rig. I'm like,
I have had people reach out to me and say, "What the hell are you doing?"
I'm like, what do you care? Why do you care?
I
It's
mean,
mine.
that's the way I handled it. It was like,
It's plastic, metal, and wire. Who gives a
I can be diplomatic and I can explain like I'm selling it because it doesn't fit my needs anymore, or
right.
like I have some different ideas about things I'm doing right now, and it makes a difference. I have my reasons, right? Like that's basically
Right.
the answer. I have my reasons. And listen, this is the responsible thing for me to do. If you'd like me to be irresponsible, I can keep the Kemper and I can spend money I don't have
Right.
on something else.
Right.
So like even the whole like personal responsibility element of this, it's just right out the effing window.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's just right out the window. Like,
Well, like I said, I could flip that for the custom I want. The thing is, I don't want to.
I wouldn't do that.
'Cause-
Jim, even if you never get a custom, you will get a custom at some point. I
going to.
guarantee it.
Yeah. it's gonna happen.
But even if you don't get a custom, like what you have right now is more unique.
Yeah.
And ain't very many people that have a V2.
Let me tell you something.
I would hang on to it.
There's I've had people who are like fans. I mean, like super fans of guitar of it. They've seen that guitar when I bring it. When I brought it to Guitar Center to get it fretted.
Yeah.
When I brought it to get it set up.
It's weird. It's kitschy. It's unique.
They said, "Man, I have never seen." And they're like, "What's under those pickup rings?" I go, "Wouldn't you like to know?" I'm gonna do a little. I need to do a little video where I pull the strings and show everybody what's under there because that's
yeah, dude. Like I think any videos that you do of your Gibsons will be hits.
Yeah.
We had a video.
I had no idea.
We had a video that Jim did of that Joe Bonamassa Les Paul, and I was in the YouTube account because he posted the episode, and I went in there and I looked and I went, "Holy crap! We had like 6,000 views or something, and we weren't even paying attention.
I
we
had no
didn't even
idea.
know it happened. We were like, what? Okay,
No idea.
not gonna complain. I mean,
Nope.
that fits my mantra right there.
Not gonna complain. No idea it happened.
Yeah, like I realize. Listen, I've had conversations with people behind the scenes of the show. I am constantly pulled in a direction to cover this, cover that, based on like this one person wants me to talk about X or Y. And I'm sorry if people think that this is like a gear show, because it's really not. It's a guitar show, right? Like we'll talk about theory, and we've done that before.
Right.
I know that people feel like they've been left in the lurch to some extent. Some people have. Like, I know there's a lot of people who aren't even listening to the show right now because there's no commute, right?
Right.
And they got other things they're dealing with, and I totally get it.
Hey, that's cool. Yeah.
But we try to cover a wide variety of stuff and topics on this show.
Yeah.
So when we talk about a $6,000 '79 Les Paul Custom VOS, Jim and I are not talking about it from the perspective of like, let's go buy this. Like this should be like the big red flag for you guys to realize that we're a lot more practical than you might realize.
Yeah.
The difference here, when I have a conversation with somebody about, like I'm selling something or whatever, first off, the only reason I posted it to my social media at all was because I want people to go to the listing and take a look at what I got to sell, because maybe they'll be interested, and I'd like it to go to a good home. I don't like to sell crap that people are going to destroy it. That sucks. But at the same time, like Jim has echoed multiple times, it's my money,
right?
It's my item, and I get to decide whether I like it or keep it. And I'm not being a hypocrite. Like I want to make this very clear, because this is something that's also come up in conversations. Like, you're a hypocrite. You had the Helix and you were talking about how good that was, and then you sold that. Listen, we all go through these phases where we like and dislike things, and eventually you get enough dislikes on one side and it goes out the door.
Well, all right, we both owned a Helix, all right, and I owned mine a lot less long than you did, but
yeah, it didn't take you that long to figure it out.
Took me a few days. But I always, every time I see one, I go, is there something I'm missing? Is there something? Because there's so many people who love them. And I'm thinking to myself, I must be the wrong one, because I can't get it. I don't get it. But here's the thing that I want to say to everybody is this. Your gear is your gear because it's what you want, and it's what you want to do. And remember that. So don't worry about, I spent too much or too little, or you should be proud of what you play. And there was a guy on I'm part of a Gibson owners forum. Oh, that's another place where they were, even a Gibson owners forum, they're like, whoa, that thing is cool. Anyway, some people said, oh, that's not real. Yes, it is. It's the second one I've owned in 40 years. It's definitely real. 30-something years. Anyway, the thing that I'm trying to say here is this, that you should love what you love because you love it. And we all need to respect each other. This is my kumbaya moment, I guess. We need to respect each other and each other's needs within the guitar community. I joke lightly about the people who want the Adam Jones guitar.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a group of people that will make that thing work.
Let me tell you something. If you can spend $12,000 on a guitar, and you, like this one guy, have the guts to take it on stage every night. He even said, he was like, after he was getting it in, he's like, oh, now that's the kind of guitar I got to take to the bathroom with me, because he's not Adam Jones. You can't afford to have somebody stand there, with a gun and I don't know. You hear stuff like this all the time. I mean, Zakk Wylde got his guitar stolen off the back of a truck. Tom Petty got his guitar stolen. Who else did I hear famous that got a guitar stolen? It was somebody, I think it was Frampton, was just talking. Was it Frampton or somebody like that? Was talking about how they handed a guitar off to their tech. The tech put it on, I think, just off stage. Put it on, and it disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
They said they're pretty sure they had somebody in the rigger department ready to steal it. And what happened was the rigger sent down a thing, and then somebody, put it on, and they pulled it up, hoisted it up. Because it's the only way they got it past security, was to rig it up and out.
Yeah.
And my point is, I don't know, like, I have said in jest and in reality, I'd love to buy a 59 VOS or 40 VOS.
Yeah.
Or a really nice custom shop Les Paul.
But you want a copy of the legend, right? Like,
right.
You're not looking for some random like Norlin era thing.
Right,
It just seems weird.
right. I want that, Sunburst 59 VOS. It's made from. I don't have $350,000 to spend on a real one, so But do I really? And that's the thing I keep telling myself. Do I really? I mean, isn't this good enough? Does it need to
It,
have block inlays? Does it need to have
a lot of the so that's and that's a good thing to talk about because like so in part of one of these conversations somebody said to me like, hey, doesn't your amp that you have already do this? I actually got that from two different people. And it's like, define what this is.
right?
I kind of get taken aback. A Mesa Boogie does not sound like a Plexi,
No,
right? Like it's not. They're distinctly different. A Bassman does not sound like a Deluxe Reverb.
no.
They're distinctly different. A Dr. Z Maz 18 does not sound like a Vox AC30, even though they share a lot of common parts. I mean,
Yep.
I think I'm looking for, and this is kind of what I've been telling people. Is like, I want an heirloom. People ask me like, well, do you just buy gear and flip it because you just like get bored or whatever? And it's no, that's not what's going on. I have lots of gear that I have purchased and had for a really long time. I have my Mark V 25. I've had that as long as I've been owning this condo, so it's at least 5 years now.
Yep.
I'm not in any way, shape, or form going to sell it. I almost sold it one time, and I learned my lesson because I walked away from that going, that would have been stupid. My GNL S500, which I've had longer than my Mark V now. I've had that as long as I've been employed at ALA, and that means that I've had this guitar for 7 years. I just had my 7th anniversary. I have my white Strat that goes back to when I was in the band Lucid Vision when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
that guitar's not going anywhere.
That was what?
Yeah, it's over. That's like a 2001.
Yeah.
And I got it in like 04.
Yeah.
So it was hanging on the wall of of Marcole Music here in Bloomingdale, Illinois for like 3 years before anybody even thought about buying it. And I had an SRV Strat that I had forever, and I eventually parted with that. There are definitely times where you fall in and out of love with things, but there are also things that I have that are not going to leave my possession over my dead body, and some of that is emotional attachment. I have 2 Pelletars. All right, so if you're not familiar with the Pelletar, it's kind of a joke pedal. It looks sort of like a Klon, but it's like a big muff and a crazy Velcro fuzz inside the same unit with a blend knob for all the controls, basically.
Yeah.
And I have 2 of them. I have one that I purchased, and then I got my name drawn out of a Secret Santa, and Leon from Pelican Noise Works, the guy that makes them, sent me that.
Yeah.
And he sent me a special one, and it is black. It is the only black one.
Yep.
And
it says on the inside of it, you, Dave. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it actually does have a special message to me inside, but I don't remember what it says.
I was going to say he puts special messages inside. I was just joking with you.
Yeah. So, I have definitely had pedals that I've gotten, and like that one was an attachment for me because there's a story attached to that. He dropped his laptop down a flight of stairs, smashed his laptop into smithereens, and was just generally having a terrible day. And so he's like, when I packed your thing, he sent me a mug, a shirt, the pedal, and another pedal. And he's like, I just wanted to make sure somebody had a better day than I was having that day. And I'm like, I sold the other pedal that I got because I used it for a while and I actually really liked it, but it led me to some other things. And so I kept the Pelletar, the black Pelletar, and I'm like, that's never leaving my possession. Because there's a story attached to that. And it's really important to me that I remember that story. And so that the item helps me do that. But there are definitely like the Ethos. I sold that thing. I reached out to the guy and bought it back from him. Yeah. What does that tell you? There are definitely things that I have that I am attached to as a musician, and like I gravitate towards. I'm looking for another amp that can do what that has done for me, which has given me something like a rock for me to stand on and judge other things by. In terms of the show and like how that will be discussed. That doesn't mean that, look, I'm going to get a Dr. Z. Like, I'm probably going to get a Maz 18. I'm not even going to lie. If I get a Maz 18
Yep.
and I don't like it, it's going to get sold.
Yeah, but it
Like,
gets
I'm not
sold
even
pretty
gonna,
much. You can sell it for what you gave for it, so it's
right,
not
right,
gonna.
right, right, right. So it's like, I'm not going to sit here and lie to people and be like, when I buy this, it's going to stay in my possession forever.
Right.
Like, even the Kemper, if you guys recall, when I bought the Kemper, I said 2 years. I needed 2 years out of it. I almost got 2 years. And I was like,
Yeah.
because I knew that it was
It's a
a
year and a half
tool,
already.
and I knew that at some point in the near future, there's going to be a new product, and I'm not going to lose my investment.
Right.
And I made it really clear to a lot of the people I was talking to. I can't keep risking that the new Kemper comes out and my value drops to the floor. I actually
Right.
had 2 people tell me, well, everything depreciates. If you've ever lost the kind of money I have on digital gear, you will never buy digital gear again.
Yeah.
I have gone down that path kicking and screaming out of convenience. That's the only reason I went there. I had a $1,200 amplifier with a $300 foot controller that was separate. When I sold it, I sold the amp for $180.
Yep.
I went and I actually looked up what I sold it for before this episode. It was $180. That is what we call a wash, ladies and gentlemen. If you look at that and under the microscope, you'll realize that was a bad move. I should never have bought that, and I certainly shouldn't have held on to it to the point where it was worthless.
Yes.
And the fact is, if you get married to a digital piece of gear, you'll have 2 things happen. Number one, you can get another one easily. It'll be cheap, but you'll also lose all the money that you put out on it. Like, I can't tell you, like, I look at things, especially guitars, and I say, that's worth this, and that's worth this, and I see the value of it flash in front of my eyes.
Yep.
And so it makes it very easy for me to make decisions about how important is it to me.
This guy right here. So there's 2 of them right here that I honestly don't think I could let go of because this is my unicorn. I've had it for a year. I know I just got this, but I spent a lot of years trying to get it back, and that's 40 years. Well, I'm 56. I'll be 57. So that's 30, almost 38 years that I sat waiting for that to come home, so to speak. The SG. The truth is that there's nothing. If you look at it, this is like that Adam Jones thing. If you look at it, there's nothing special about it. It's
Right.
a Batwing
Standard.
SG standard. Yet every single person that's ever heard it or played it has said, "Man, that is a special SG." And I can't, as much as I want a Heritage Cherry one, not gonna let go of it.
Can I share an insight about SGs real fast?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I had that SG Batwing 2,
Yep.
and people loved that thing too. I think Gibson right now is making the best SGs they probably ever made.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, these 3 guys are definitely staying. I've had this one for about 2 years. I've had this one for a year, and I've had this one for a few months. This one I've had for just over a year. Also, just a really good guitar. Now is it irreplaceable? No. The one thing about that Ultra, as beautiful and as well built and as nice as it is, every other Ultra is probably just as good. I wish I could say there was something special about the certain Fenders. There's just not to me. I'm probably not hearing it.
I think it happens, but
Yep.
I think with Fenders, to find one that's like truly special, it may be that what you would consider to be truly special isn't palatable to you. Like, I know people have been like, "Oh yeah, this Telly's so good," and it's like I hear it and I'm like, "Wow, that sounds like a damn razor blade."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, they're like, no, but that's great because that's what you want to Telly to sound like." I'm like, "Okay,"
Yeah.
like just go like, "Okay, have fun,"
Yeah.
like not for me. So I think it's to each their own on that sort of thing. But
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this precision, it's good. It's a precision. It's a made in Mexico precision. But my hummingbird, that Rosewood hummingbird, I mean, it's not a mahogany hummingbird. There's just something about it I like, and that they did in that couple of years. So it's another one that if I ever let it go, it'd be like this thing. All of a sudden, I'd look back and go, ah, crap. You know, I can never get it back. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and my custom 24, that's it's replaceable. I hate to say that about a PRS, but it's an SE and it's replaceable. But the point is that what I'd love to be able to do is when we have 10,000 subscribers, I want to point at this wall and see the same guitars with maybe one more. I'm trying to figure out if it's going to be an ES355 or if it's going to be a Tele. Probably be an ES335. But I want to look at the used market, and I really want to look at something that has got some.
I'm not really even into acquisitions at this point. Yeah. I mean, like you're talking about, like, oh, I want to add this or whatever.
Or 335.
We know that some of the guitars in your wall will probably change between it now and that time period, but it probably won't be the V. It probably won't be the Les Paul, because those are really unique instruments. They came to you in a special way, and they have like unique stories behind them. The SG maybe not, because there's something special about it. Yep. But like, I could see you getting a different Strat than the Strat Ultra. I could see you,
maybe.
You know, like and
the custom 24 going with something higher.
But back to what I was saying, I personally, I don't really need much more. I'm a Strat guy. Like I've realized that there's really no reason for me to buy anything other than Strats. I have three, actually. I have the Legacy, which is going to go out the door. I've been saying it for a year. I just haven't put the pickup spec in it to sell it. I have my S500, which is hanging on the wall next to me, and it's perpetually hanging on the wall next to me. And I don't even think I take the strap off of it anymore. That guitar gets a lot of playtime these days. And I have that Godin LGP 90, which was probably featured in last week's episode. I don't really like. I know there's one more waiting, and I'll kind of reveal like what I'm looking at, and maybe show listeners can share their thoughts on it in the group or whatever. But I'm looking at a Warmoth Strat with all the comfort contours and crap. I want it no pick guard. It's going to have a humbucker and probably single. And what I do with it is I want to put a conversion neck on it. So I want it 24 and 3/4 inch scale. The body's probably going to be alder, ash, whatever's light, whatever I can get that's light. Maybe I might go mahogany. It depends. And then what I want to actually do with it is I'm going to send it to MJT, and I'm going to have them paisley it. And it's going to be like, I'm not going to say what I'm going to do color scheme wise for the paisley. Like I already know what I'm going to do, but I don't want to reveal it because I know other people are probably like, oh yeah, that sounds really cool. I want to do that too.
Yeah, no.
And quite frankly, like if you want to do that, just wait till the guitar's done, then go do it all.
Yeah.
Like I really don't care. But I just I think it'll be unique when I get it, and that'll be kind of cool. Right. I'm probably going to get it light relic, like very light, because I want to put most of the wear into myself. I don't mind having it look a little old when I get it. I don't really I don't want comfort wear, because I think if you wear in the comfort, that's better too. But I'm just like, I'm kind of over this whole idea of like looking for my own super Strat or whatever. I'm just going to build one. Like I'm going to build one that has all the shit I want on it. Yeah. And just be done with it. Like one more guitar. This is the one that's going to be played probably in every gig for the next 3 years or 5 years.
Yeah.
And go back and forth between it and my S500. That should be great. You know,
like I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. You and I talked about that. We did kind of custom builds in Warmoth, and the truth of the matter is, and this is the thing I'm surprised, and I know why most people don't do it. Okay, I think I know why, but if you're going to do a guitar that you're going to keep, and the intention is that you're going to hang on to it, you'll get more bang for your buck from a Warmoth build.
Sure. Or Music Craft or any of the other like aftermarket, the quality aftermarket parts company.
Right. And that was the other one. I don't want to. What is that one that does Mighty Might or something like that? That does
Mighty Might makes good stuff too.
Yeah.
And they've gotten better. So like there was a time period when they were kind of a joke, but like if you were to go and even like GFS, if you're okay with weird woods and stuff, like GFS does good stuff.
Yeah.
But going to a company, well, not a company, but like on eBay and buying like random Chinese Strat Neck A it's probably not going to be a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to
I've
get.
heard horror stories.
Yeah, I'd love to get an unfinished, just like you're talking about, an unfinished guitar from somebody like that, and then get someone who is artistic to do the artwork, and then get someone who is a guitar builder to put it together for me.
I
Um,
don't even care if they do a photo finish. Like, to be honest with you, for Paisley, it's usually a fabric and then they spray
yep,
over it and stuff.
yep,
I don't want fabric on it. Just do it as photo finish. Like, because the thinner the better. You're gonna nitro the crap out of it anyway.
yep.
So I would much rather have it like thin skin and just let me wear it out. But I want to do it in a unique fashion.
Yep.
And I
I
don't. Yeah.
I would literally have it look like grandma's shades, so to speak. I mean, I would literally want it to be the most ugly, um, uh, grotesque looking thing that you could ever see, because that's what makes them really kind of special, you know. I had a I had a guitar that was really inexpensive that I asked somebody to do a South Park thing too, and that's kind of what I would want for like this guy,
Right.
because it's an
It
inexpensive.
kind of fit. It kind of fits that.
Yeah, put me, as a South Park character up on the butt, of the guitar or
Wow,
something.
that's vain. He's gonna put himself on there. Listen to this
Well, no,
crap.
I had a little South Park character with me playing bass, and I kind of thought it was cool. Um, eh, that's the kind of thing that it then becomes yours, and it becomes special. Um, so I've thought about it. As a matter of fact, that's probably the perfect instrument to do it to. Why not? Why go buy something? Just
Yeah,
have that
yeah.
thing. The problem is you're without a base and get it back.
Well, that's
Yeah,
listen. I know that challenge. Like, I'm looking at Dr. Z's and I want to buy used because I don't want to potentially lose money on it. But as much as I want to support the company, like, I don't know enough about their product to go and buy one new. So
right.
I'm kind of like, at least I won't lose depreciation if I buy used, right? So I'm looking at one used and I'm like, I'm gonna have to send this thing to them to get it modded so it can get updated to
Yep.
current spec.
Right.
And I'm like, that sucks because I'm gonna be without an amp for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks while they're doing the mod. That sucks.
Yeah, it's
Not only
crazy.
that, but you gotta pay to ship it too, which is not fun.
Yep.
But
Yep.
this Warmoth thing I'm talking about doing, it would be like a labor of love. I don't mind sending a body to somebody to have them finish
Right.
it.
Right. And that's the thing. You
Um,
could buy the body. You don't have to buy the neck right now. You can buy the body,
right.
have it shipped off, and you're paying for it a little bit at a time, and it's not all gone. And you get the body back, and you're like, oh, this looks really nice. And now you get somebody to throw the parts together, or you do it. I mean, I would probably do it myself. Um,
Hey, it just occurred to me. I completely forgot to talk about something tonight.
yeah, what's that?
So I'm selling the Kemper. You know what made that possible, right? I bought a Captor X.
Oh yeah, that's right. You
It,
bought a
it, it
Captain
hasn't
X.
it hasn't arrived yet, but I have played with one already, and I want to report to the show listeners what the Captor X is like. Um, the Captor X, like the headphone out on it was like listening to my Kemper, right?
Yeah.
It was like my amplifier into an IR right into my head. And the cool part about it, and there's a lot of things I didn't know. So it has reverb and stuff in it. You can actually like set a room, and my understanding is you can set like room A, studio room A, or studio room B, and so it has like basically some IRs of some probably well-known studios
Right.
where a lot of records are getting cut, and you can also adjust the ambience. You can take so if you get one of their cabinets, so like you put it in there and you have the option to adjust microphone position and depth and all of those different parameters. And
Yeah.
the cool thing about it was like I was thinking, oh, you'll have to hook up the computer because I'm so used to the Kemper and the way that it works. Like you got to hook it up to the computer. You can do everything for the front of the Kemper, but if you really want to deep dive and you want to back up profiles and all that stuff, you got to hook it up to the computer. And what I was really surprised about with the Captor X is it's Bluetooth, so you can have the app on your phone and just be sitting there dialing presets. So I tried show listener Jeff Biazadecki's. We were messing around with my Mark V and the Kemper, and actually it wasn't my Mark V, it was their Mark V and the Kemper, and we actually profiled one using the Captor X, which is cool.
Yeah.
and we were kind of playing around with it, and I realized he was changing settings, and I'm like, how's he doing that? And I realized he's on his phone. He's like, I thought he was texting somebody. He's like, no. He's like, I got the app, you know? So I had heard with the original captor that the attenuator didn't offer much in the way of settings, right? 20 dB and off, I think. The new one actually has 3 attenuation levels. I don't know exactly what the dB is, but basically this is the way I've been describing it to people. Full bore, right? That's all open.
Yep.
One switch down, it's half volume or less, maybe even quarter volume.
Yeah.
That is the attenuation level and they consider it club level. It's pretty lofty for club level. I mean, like, it's going to be damn quiet. But it's perfect for condominium living, or, you know, like, because if you're not going to get your master over 9 o'clock anyway,
Right.
like on a Mesa Boogie, plug it in there, and you got, you know, you're down to a quarter of the volume. And then the lowest setting was like Baby in the Next Room. Okay. And it was like whisper quiet. I was really shocked by how damn quiet it was. And kind of like, wow, this is a setting that I didn't expect them to put on here. I want to say that was like negative 20 dB or something. Like, it was intense.
Yeah.
And so I honestly playing his, I was sold. I didn't need to buy a really fancy, expensive one. And it'd been on my Christmas list anyway, because I'm like, it's a product that I could use. So what ended up happening was I was gonna sell the Kemper. I was gonna buy a Captor X and an amp.
Yeah.
And then what happened was Black Friday hit, and they had the Captor X on sale for like $450 or something.
Who was that?
Sweetwater.
Oh, really?
So,
oh, yeah. It's on sale for
I snagged one immediately.
$466.
I mean, I thought it over for a day or two, and like, I didn't want to do anything until I sort of knew what my holiday spending was going to look like. But I was like, as soon as I knew, I was like, get in the cart. So it should be here tomorrow. I'm going to play with it, obviously, when it gets here, and I'll have more to talk about next week about it. But my initial impressions of it, I was very impressed with the product. In fact, I was kind of shocked by how impressed with the product I was, because I figured, like, it's too good to be true. Like, it's on paper, like, it sounds really good, and then you'd get it and you'd play around with it and you'd be like, well, this is kind of crappy. Like, this isn't exactly what it was advertised as. I actually really want to get the Cab M as well. And it's on sale, and I believe it's only $250 right now. Cab M is usually $350.
Jeez.
So I don't know if that's a permanent price break, but the reason I want to get the Cab M is because I'll get free IRs with it. But the main reason is because I'd love to have the Cab M on my pedal board for open mics.
Yeah.
And then I can just take my board. Now, I'm doing that anyway. I'm using the Ethos, and I can do that anyway. But if I have the Cab M, I can use literally any amp in a box pedal, and just run it into its power amp, because it has like a power amp simulator in it, and then use the same IRs I use with the Cab, you know, the Captor X on my real amp. So I honestly think that's one of the slickest, like, marketing experiences I've ever seen, where we got 2 tools. Here's your attenuator. This is your pedal board amp. This is your, you know, this is your studio tool. And like, they got, you know, 3 tools really. And I am really hoping that they stick around in the industry for quite some time, because I think 2 Notes is hitting it out of the park right now.
You could throw your own IRs on here, right?
Oh yeah. You can throw your own, or you can use their so like, they have their own IR store, and they have their own format, and that allows you to get additional features, because it allows you to do the mic blending and all that stuff. And actually, I was watching Rabia Massad's video, and I didn't realize this. So like, the Torpedo Live, which was the big product before the Captor X came out.
Yeah.
The Torpedo Live had allowed you to do 1 microphone. The Captor X allows you to do 2 and blend them.
Yep.
Which is pretty impressive, because if you think about what that is, it's probably actually 2 separate IRs that's running at a time.
That's what it's saying. It's like running two IRs.
And Two Notes actually has been very vocal about the fact that they don't truncate their IRs when they convert them. So like the Helix chops off a piece of the IR,
Yeah, they
and
chop
the
off quite
Kemper
a
does
bit.
as well. The Kemper does as well. Like
Yep.
fully willing to admit that. I think Fractal does, but they have like a really high interpolation rate. Um, who is the other company? Boss got in trouble because apparently their tube amp expander really truncates it and changes the crap out of the IR. So the tube amp expander is like a product that a lot of people were really excited for, and I think a lot of people have gotten a lot of use out of it. But I don't think it's as amazing as people thought it was going to be. The Ox, I've heard very mixed reviews on the Ox. I know some people are like Ox all the way, but the Ox box has its problems. I mean, I don't think they're even using IR based cabinet models in the Ox box because
No.
I've heard them play back to back with Two Notes, and like the Two Notes just crushes it. And the other problem is that the Ox box reactive load actually is based on a deluxe reverb. So if you want to plug your Marshall Plexi into the Ox box, it's going to feel really different.
So
um,
you can take the output of this, right, and send it to the speaker, and take the outputs above and put them to
yeah, so it can provide you a
your
direct
DAW.
out for yeah,
Yeah.
it can do a 2-for-1.
So you can.
Um,
This thing is good for if you're taking your amp to a gig. You can
yeah,
throw it on top of the amp, and
you could literally walk into the gig without a cabinet and use it too.
that's what I was gonna say.
So
And you could
it's
take the
totally
yeah,
totally versatile.
pull the load
Um,
right off and put it in there. So I could take my 16 ohm load off there, throw it into this, the cabinet, or I mean the microphone, or I mean the speaker, throw it into
You have to have a
this.
16 ohm version of it. Yeah, but
Yeah,
so that's the only thing I don't
they
like about
sell a
their product.
16. They sell a 16 and an 8. Yeah, you can't. It's
Yeah,
not
but
switchable. Yeah.
that's what sucks is it's not switchable. But that's because the reactive load wants to see this or this, and it's just the way they designed it.
Yep.
I don't think it's like a paywall. I don't think that's the way that they've looked at their product.
I doubt it.
But
It's just either for
but
people with 16 ohm amps, or like me. The Marshall that I have is 16 ohm. I
well,
believe.
all Marshalls, I believe, are 16 ohm. I mean, at least all the ones I've owned have been.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so if
I
you buy
think
the
Mesa
16 ohm one,
eight.
I think you can run an 8 ohm off of it,
Right.
right?
I
Or is
can,
it the other way? Don't
but
listen to me.
I
Check for
can.
yourself. But you
Yeah,
can go
but
one way, but you can't go the other.
right. I can, but yeah. It's
You need
better
to
if I
keep it
just
under
buy the 16, because this is my
yeah,
amp, and
for sure.
this is my
For
thing.
sure. And you would need to make sure it's at least half the wattage or less. There's like some caveats there.
Yep.
But ultimately, like I think these products are a nice bridge between the world of like Kemper and Helix and the world of real amps.
Yeah.
And I know that there's definitely people like I've made fun of purists on the show a lot. I'm not a purist by any stretch. Like I'm totally willing to go digital where it needs to. And I've done it. Like I've shown everybody that I actually do. I'm willing to do crap that I a purist would look at it and go, no, I'm not doing that. I think that products like this are really the future.
Yeah.
I think that right now, digital is almost to the point where it's going to start eclipsing what we can do financially with tube amplification. I think there will still be people like me out there that are like, I'd rather just have 2 amps and not have 50 different options, because there are still people that suffer option paralysis. Like
Well,
it's the
yeah.
same
So
people that use flip phones. There's still
let's.
flip phones out there, people.
Hey,
Um,
my father-in-law is that guy. He does not want this because he doesn't want all the crap that comes along
right.
with having one of these in his pocket. So let's talk for a minute about that. And I want to kind of bring us to an end on that. Is that so? Options, right? So so I'm sitting here watching. Like I said, I'm in these Gibson forums, right? And you got studio or standard. Should I get a standard or a custom? Should I get this or this? Should I get this or this? I'm like, play it. Whatever it is you're going to get, play it. It's I watch these. We talked about this before. I watch these channels where these folks have like guitars. I've only got one, two, three, four. That one's not mine. The you can't see it, but it's behind me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then my acoustic. I really only play like 3. Sometimes I bring that one. That one comes to a lot of open mics because this one because it's very versatile in that respect. But I really at home pretty much play these 3, and this one gets played a lot. But I just can't imagine. And acoustic, obviously, that's the one I don't have to plug in, right? And I keep thinking to myself that these folks that buy like a bazillion things, and they're always looking at the next one. What's the next better one? What's the next better one? And I think to myself, yeah, but is that to get a guitar? First thing I want to do is change pickup. All right. I ordered, don't even have it yet.
And I've already ordered the pickups to go in the new guitar before you even played it. Yeah. I've done that.
Yeah.
But I've done that. Well, technically I didn't do it that way, but it was like I bought the guitar knowing I was going to replace the pickups in it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't like the stock pickups.
Right.
And there are definitely times where that's like, okay,
I
guess.
You're not a beginner.
Right. If you're not like if you've never owned a Strat and you're already buying the replacement pickups before the guitar shows up, there's something wrong.
Right.
You might want to talk to your friends about.
Yeah, you've watched too many podcasts
and too many YouTube videos.
Yeah, you've watched too many YouTube videos. I hear all the time people, and this is the other side of it. I hear all the time, and I don't want to pick on Phil McKnight. I'm going to because Phil's got a thick skin, nice guy. Plus. This thing is something I know he sees every week. He'll be on his live podcast. Somebody will go, I just got an American Pro 2 or whatever, and what pickups should I get? And he always goes, well, I like these, and he's very specific. I like these. Thing is, you don't know if you like the same guitar pickups that Phil McKnight likes.
Can I ask?
When was the last time you had a signature guitar that you? It's like.
Can I? Oh, I got a bigger question. When was the last time he was on stage?
Yeah.
When was the last time he played a gig? Like, what the hell?
He's
the last guy you would want to ask that question of.
He backed up Larry Miller doing bass.
When?
Right. About a year ago. Yeah, it was about a year ago. It was before COVID.
I mean, I don't think he would even say that he has a ton of live gigging experience.
Yeah.
Like. In my estimation, if you're like serious about music, you'll find pickups you like, but then you'll get into a band situation, you'll be like, holy crap, I can't even hear myself.
Well, yeah, and he records, but he records for himself. Again, I don't want to pick on him as a player or anything like that. That's not what I'm doing. The thing is that even if you, as a listener, if you were a podcast listener of ours or a podcast listener of his, you don't really know what his stuff sounds like in the room. When was the last time you were in the room with him when he played? Sure. I can say when I was, sure. Because I got to meet him and in 2018 when he was playing there. But that's a different thing. It was a PRS, it had nothing to do with the Strat stuff, and it wasn't his. It was what they had in the play. So the point I'm making is that you're I don't know. It's like people. It's that option paralysis. All right, I got the guitar. It doesn't sound like the Strat I thought it was going to sound like. What do I have to do?
Maybe you don't know what a Strat is supposed to sound like, or maybe the sound in your head isn't a Strat at all.
But it'll be the same person that'll say, yeah, the Strat just doesn't sound like the way it does. And what are you playing through? A Spider, or
the classic example, Jim, and you're absolutely right, but the classic example is the guy that says, I want my Strat to sound like Les Paul.
Oh,
wait,
yeah.
What? Then just get a damn Les Paul. Like, what the hell?
How do I get my Les Paul? When I split the coils, it doesn't sound like a Strat. How come on Andertons it sounded like a Strat? It didn't. It
It
didn't.
didn't.
It never did. They never said it sounds like a Strat. What they said, it was a Stratty. And even then, when they use that as a descriptor, it's disingenuous to Stratocasters.
Right, right. I think people have a tendency. It's like even me right now. Here I am in the middle of COVID, right, trying to buy an amplifier because I'm an idiot. Um, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, like,
You'll get no
I don't
argument from me.
the things yeah, but a lot of people, frankly. Um, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at some of these amplifiers and I'm watching YouTube clips and stuff, right? And I'm going, first off, I absolutely know that YouTube is the worst place to listen to a boutique amp company because there's every idiot who owns one who thinks he's exclusive and cool is uploading camera footage from his cell phone in the 90s.
Yeah.
It's like it's like all pixelated and the audio quality is terrible. But
Yeah.
we'll get to that in a minute because I have another commentary about those kind of videos. And I laugh because I'm watching these videos. I'm like, yeah, that's the sound I want. That's the sound I want. Or, oh my God, like, why is this guy only playing Telecasters? And I just kind of sit there and I start realizing to myself, like, you really got to play it. I mean, until you have it in your hands and you played it, you don't know what the hell it sounds like, especially when it comes to amplifiers and guitars.
Yeah.
And so these people are like, I want a Strat. It's usually motivated by the fact that, like, all my heroes play Strats.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you necessarily like the sound of one.
That's right.
Like when you sit down and you actually play one, you might find out your technique doesn't work on a Strat. It may sound like crap.
Yeah.
And so just thinking about amplifier, like I wasn't, by all accounts, I am not a Strat guy in the sense that I didn't gravitate towards a Strat. I bought the Strat because it was cheap, and for whatever reason, like it just kept coming back to that's the guitar that I'm good at. Like
Okay.
that's the one that like I can make do the most things.
Yeah.
And so that's why I just kind of gravitate towards them now. But in terms of the camera quality video thing, when you see these people and they're posting their videos of like this is what it sounds like in the room and it's just a camera video, there are two types of those. Number one, there's the one where the camera is so distorted you can't hear anything. And then there's the other type of video where the camera is actually reflecting naturally what's happening in the room. And you're like, oh my God, that sounds terrible because you're not really actually used to listening to it in the room. You're used to being like a foot from the speaker.
Yeah.
And it's like even right now, so I can hear my echo coming through my microphone into my headphones. And I know that that's my room. Like I can hear that echo and I know that's the sound of my room. People don't realize that sounds a lot more prominent than they think it is.
Right.
So when you put them in a situation where they have to listen to their amp, and it's like a room mic, they're like, that sounds terrible. No, it really doesn't. That's actually what it sounds like in the room. You just need to learn to accept it. And the fact is, like in those sorts of situations, actually, I like those videos because you can tell how much gain, you can tell how loud it is. And it's kind of funny because those are the ones that have like sold me more products because I'm like, okay, that amp obviously is really aggressive, or that amp is really demure, depending on what it is, and I'm kind of make a decision based on that. So it's just interesting. And then of course the other commentary I have here, because we're talking about the videos, and I know I've talked for a really long time. Trust me, this one's gold. I challenge people to get on. Go on YouTube, look at the common Dr. Z amps, look at the Maz, look at the Antidote, look at the Carmen Gia, look at the, basically any of them, but like maybe the EMS, right? You will see people playing Telecasters through them almost exclusively. And I don't know what the hell that's all about. Like
Brad
why
Paisley.
people with Telecaster. I know, but that's like, it's clear that when you watch some of these guys, they don't know anything about Brad Paisley.
I'm
They're really
telling
good
you.
players. They're killer players, but they don't know about Brad Paisley.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there playing a Telecaster. And then when they plug in their Strat, like they're goosing the amp so that it gets all this cut and stuff. And like the treble is just ridiculous. Nobody's going to use an amp that's set up like Brad Paisley sets his amp up in any other scenario than country music. No one. No
Right.
one. And I can tell you from playing these amps, they don't sound like that. You can actually get them to be pretty dark.
Well, yeah, it's just
it drives
that
me crazy.
He is the famous Dr. Z player.
Yeah, I know, but if I were, and here's where here's gonna put my industry hat on. If I were Dr. Z, I'm not nothing against Brad Paisley. He's obviously an amazing guitar player. I've seen him live myself.
Yeah.
I would be looking for a second or a third amazing player to play my amps
Oh, I
because you
know
got to
there's
get out of that pigeonhole. If they're only for country, that's crap.
yeah, and you know it's funny because obviously Brad Paisley is like the guy that people know that plays, but
There's a
he can't be their only
laundry
customer.
list of other people.
He can't be their only customer, and
Yeah, there's
so
a lot of people that play Dr. Z. If you go on
yeah,
the website, you can see their artist roster, and I was actually kind of
yeah,
surprised there were quite a few names in there that you did not expect to see.
yeah, and I think that's a big thing. But you got to remember that also with Dr. Z, that the downside of Dr. Z, which is actually also their upside, is they're very picky about who gets to sell their stuff.
Sure, sure.
I know Parkway Music in upstate New York, Clifton Park, New York, they're Dr. Z people. They're very few because uh, they're they
They're
have a
protective of their dealers.
that's
They
right.
operate a lot like Mesa Boogie in that
That's
regard.
I was going to say, and a lot of people that are Dr. Z dealers are also Mesa Boogie dealers because they
Yeah,
have
a lot of time.
they have a very similar way of doing things, and that's why it makes sense that it goes hand in hand. Same with Rickenbacker and folks like that.
It's easier for them to understand that relationship.
Yeah.
Um, I and Dr. Z just still does a lot of direct sales too.
Yes.
That's another they won't tell you that, but you can go direct to Doctor. You can call them up and you can order whatever you want.
All
They'll
right.
take your money.
All right.
In fact, they'll build amps that are not even in production for you if you want, and usually they'll do it at the prices that they were discontinued at,
Yeah.
which is pretty amazing when you consider it. Um, I I don't know. I've looked at some other companies. I've looked at Sir. I've looked at well, I mean, you guys know I've looked at Friedman and I've looked at all the other
Yeah.
like low level boutique or like sort of boutique companies. Um, I think Dr. Z is more likely to get my money than any of the other guys, and I think it's because of the genuineness. Like I met Dr. Z and he was a nice guy, and he honestly like really loves amplification and like how amplifiers work and the circuits, and he can take dude's like an encyclopedia when you talk to him about it. Um, but they gave me the red carpet treatment at Gearfest when I walked up to that booth, and they were like, "Here, take this guitar and play it." And they didn't know I was from a podcast or anything. They were treating everybody like that.
Yeah.
And then they let me sit there for 20 minutes, and like the guy was I was playing through the Nova, which is supposed to be like a JTM 45 slash Bassman circuit, right? I was probably closer to Bassman circuit because it's got 606s, I think. Um, and he's like, I'm like, it's great. I'm like, I really like the circuit and everything. And he says, you're a gain guy, aren't you? And I said a little bit more than what's on tap here. So they brought out their drive pedal and plugged me in with that, and then let me go for another 5 or 10 minutes. And the whole time they were like working with me directly, and it was very much them saying, "This is what we do. We know that not everybody has had the opportunity to see the array of amplifiers we offer, and that we're a small quantity shop." And I was like I said, once I started playing and like I know people were paying attention to what's going on because that's just what happens. Like at Gearfest, whenever you get into a booth and somebody's like turning stuff up and like everybody in the vicinity turns around and looks. Um, I that was when Dr. Z came over and started talking to me, and like we had a good conversation, and told him what I thought of his company and like his just the mantra that comes out of there, and it was a good experience, and actually left me like walking away from Gearfest kind of going, someday I will probably line his pockets a little bit.
Yep.
And I do intend to do so, even if it's just getting him to do the mods to update a used amp. I feel strongly that we need companies and people with knowledge that can actually run this kind of stuff, because we are going to be in a diminishing world. We will have a digital age of guitar amplification, and it's going to happen soon, not later. People are acting like 30 years from now. It's going to be a lot sooner than that. I mean, the products that are coming down the pipe now are the best they've ever been, obviously. And they are to the point where many pros are like, it's good enough. And I think we're going to see more and more of that as time goes on. Now, of course, you're going to have your holdouts. You're going to have the people like me that are like, I still want tubes. But it's going to shrink, and it's going to become a niche thing. And I could see paying $4,000 for a tube amplifier in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
I think they're going to start shooting up in price. They already started to, though. Like, look at the production amps. Look at what you get in a production amp now for like $450 or $500 compared to what you got in a production amp for $450 or $500 10 years ago.
Look at if you look at what is it, the Fender Blues Junior?
Yeah, it's $550.
I
It
mean,
used to
that
be a
thing
$350 amp,
exactly. The Blues Junior right now.
and it is as basic as it gets. The only other one that's more basic is the Pro Junior. And I don't know how many people have told me I'm going to buy a Pro Juniors because it's just a scaled down version of the Hot Rod Deluxe.
The
What?
the Fender Blues Junior is now $599 or $674. That's what we want.
Totally not worth it. Totally not worth it.
No, I'm just saying. So if you took that, let's say you went, what have I got? Marshall DSL 40CR, right? So right now,
That's a more expensive. That's a more expensive. That's the next step up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
$750, and it's $150 for my Switch. That's $900 total.
That is considered to be a budget amp, folks.
And that's exactly what I was about to say. That is a budget tube amp.
Yeah.
I've got the foot switch.
Dude, I've watched my Mark V go up in value because of the price hikes, and I just kind of sit there and I go, "Wow!" Like in 5 years, because I've only had that amp like 5 years. In 5 years, it went from being, I've had it 6 years now. It went from being, I think I paid $1,350 for it.
Yep.
They're like $1,750 or $1,800 now.
Yep.
And the cabinet prices have gone up. I remember when you could buy a 1x12 Mesa Boogie cabinet for like $300 flat. Now it's like 400 flat.
Yep.
You know, 400, 450. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't be raising their prices. Obviously, there's been inflation, and that's a part of doing business, right?
Yeah.
But and I think like even when we're talking about the Blues Junior, I think some of that's not just inflation. I think that's literally like tubes are becoming harder to get, quality ones, and I actually found out some more about that too. I was watching a Dr. Z AMA, and he actually talked about why he's using these Russian off-brand tubes, and he said because I can get mil-spec new old stock tubes from Russia for next to nothing, and he's like that's superior to what I'm getting from new production because they are still using the same dies that they were using in the 1970s and 1980s to produce tubes. And those dies are basically ruined. And so at this point, because they're just trying to overextend the life of things that they need to replace, the filaments and all the things that go into the tube are just not being manufactured to tight tolerances. And so even 15 years ago, new production tubes were probably better than what you're getting now. So any company that's stockpiling like Mesa Boogie or whatever is probably going to have decent tubes in the long run.
Yeah.
I have a feeling at some point EHX, because if you didn't know this, Electro Harmonix pretty much owns all the tube production right now. So it's like JJ. There's other companies, but they own the factory that's producing most of the stuff. And at some point they're going to have to make new dies. This whole idea that they're going to stretch those dies forever. Like, I get it. Dies and tooling are expensive. I used to work in a manufacturing shop. Like, I know that's a huge expenditure. But you can't produce tubes if they're not reliable enough for you to sell them, which is starting to become a problem. Because, like, according to Dr. Z, like, well, they're noisy now. And that's one thing. But I think he's basically saying, like, they're noisy now, and they're going to start failing sooner in the very near future, and then that's going to be a real problem because he can't stock something that's going to fail. So that's a big part of it. I forgot where I was going with that, but I just thought that was interesting and wanted to share that.
It comes up to that whole like I said that what's the word I want, that option paralysis. It also starts the ball rolling on the gear acquisition syndrome, because you start to think, oh well, I got this strat. Let's say you got what is it, the Performer? That's the standard now.
Yeah,
Um,
whatever. You got the Mexican one, the one
well,
that's the import.
the Performer I think is the bottom, the what used to be the American standard.
Okay,
And
all
so
right.
the player series are the Mexican import. So let's say you got a Performer, um, or the Pro 2 even. Let's say that's the middle one, right? That was the deluxe. So you get a Pro 2. You get a Pro 2, you get it in, you go, oh, you know what, this is good, but I wonder if I should get, better pickups. Start throwing pickups at it. Then you, oh, you know what, I should start doing, and and you got to wonder, what is that based on? Was it based on hours and hours and hours of playing, or was it based on hours of thinking that, well, this neck isn't quite good enough. Maybe if I did this to the neck, should I should I upgrade to this one? Because a lot of people, like you said, they don't know what a strat sounds like or feels like. Let's face it. So if I went to a 60s strat, I'd hate the damn thing.
Yeah,
I'd hate it.
sure.
7.25 inch radius? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want that. I mean, were there? I don't know. In the '60s, did they get to the 9.5 inch radius yet? By then,
I think in the late '60s.
yeah. So let's face it. Jimi Hendrix was playing a 7.25 inch radius, right?
Yeah, most likely. I think some of his era guitars, because that was around the '70s. They were
So
starting to switch over to nine and a
he
half.
might have had some nine
Yeah,
and a halves.
'cause I believe that was, and you got to remember also when they say 7.25 inch radius back then, it's not CNC, so it's 7.25 to 9.
Yeah,
It's
exactly,
like
exactly.
it's
And
that
that nine
weird.
and a half might have been a 10. Um,
Yeah.
uh, and and so anyway, like I said, that feel when you grab one, like when I grabbed the oh, what the hell is the name of that PRS, the one that was made for Maren,
Over Sky.
the Silver Sky. When I grabbed a Silver Sky because that's a 7.25, I was like, wow, this sucks. I hate this. There's a lot of people that love it. I mean, they love it. I
Yeah,
didn't like it.
I heard a lot of people who loved it in the beginning, but the more and more I talk to people now, it's like that was kind of a bad move. Like that was
Yeah.
a bad decision. Um, Option paralysis in terms. This is the weird, I guess the weird juxtaposition that I think is more interesting than option paralysis. Like we talk about gas, we talk about people blowing money on stuff they don't need. We talk about people going down a path of like, I think I need this gear because X person plays it or whatever. You know what's really messed up? So like I've been on the gear page more because I've been off of Facebook. And when I'm on the gear page, I can't tell you how many threads of like, tell me about X, or like, I really want X or Y. Like, is this good? Do you guys think this is good? And and it's usually not like the whole thread title, but like you drill down and there's somebody in there talking about it, like, hey, is this any good? Like, um, I think that's totally the wrong approach to take. If you're in a thread and you're asking if it's any good, your better option is probably just buy it, try it out, and then either send it back or flip it.
Yeah.
Like, um, especially if you're gonna buy used, flip it, of course. But I've done that a lot. That's how I've gotten kind of like some of my taste and pedigree on certain things. But the interesting component about that is there is a right way to do that, and that is to say I'm looking for X need, recommend, recommend Y, and people will give you examples, and you can generate a list, and then you can use that list to go and do research and narrow down your choices and do your pro and cons list and find what you're looking for, find it down to 3 products. Maybe do something like, I like this manufacturer, so they're going to be on the list, and then go and either acquire them or try them out in some way if COVID is not going on, and then come back and report your results as, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one, or I hate all of these, and really that's probably not what I want. I think that's a safer way to do it than to approach it as, is this any good? Like, because then you're just going to end up in this endless cycle of people being like, I don't like my Strat. Well, maybe you should get a Les Paul, or maybe you should change your pickups, or maybe your fret wire is wrong, or maybe you need a new bridge, or maybe. And I've seen all of these things, especially when it comes to Strats, because they're like Lego guitars.
Yeah.
You need a new neck, and I've met people who have like had 3 or 4 complete guitars go through their hand because they've just swapped parts out.
Yep.
And it's just mind blowing to me. It's just, you obviously don't like the guitar. Like if you keep buying bodies and necks and pickups, you don't like the guitar. What
Right.
the hell? You know?
Right. That's right.
Why'd you buy it to begin with?
It's a cycle. You're going to go through a cycle, and the fact is that if you grabbed it at the store and you're a new player and you didn't really know, you should have just got whatever, you know. It's difficult to really communicate what I'm trying to say here without sounding bad. Is that some people? I'll tell you, some people never care. They don't care what it feels like. They'll just play it. I get the feeling that was what. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that was the 60s and 70s in a nutshell, man.
Yeah.
I think a lot of, and this is going to sound like heresy, but a lot of the dogma about like you need the 61 or the 62 Strat and you need a 59 Les Paul is because there were a lot of guys playing them in professional situations, and I don't necessarily know that they knew what they had. You hear about people like Bernie Marsden buying the Beast from somebody, and it was like, yeah, it was a good Les Paul, but like it never occurred to them they were rare or that why it was good. It was just, I like that guitar. I play it a lot.
Well, the fact is they were rare because they were on their way out.
Yeah, okay? They weren't popular when they were making them.
Nobody wanted them. Gibson couldn't give them away. I mean, it was like, okay, well, here they are, and shop owners were like, we got to discount. You got to make deep discounts. When you think about the Stratocaster and the way the Stratocaster became super famous, right? I mean, look at what happened. I mean, Billy Holly played a Stratocaster because it was, or Buddy Holly, sorry, because he got a Stratocaster. I mean, it was like, how many guitars do you think were out there, guys? How many electric guitars do you think existed? Right? Like 5.
Solid body.
Yeah.
5 at that time.
We're talking
the Telecaster, there was the Stratocaster, there was the Les Paul, and then there was like Dan Electro, I think had just come out with one. And I think Rickenbacker actually had something at that time.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the mid to late 50s, you're looking at a very select few electric guitars in the solid body category.
Yeah, right.
The Spanish guitar, they call them.
I was just gonna say, in all of the sales literature, they were Spanish guitars, and nobody wanted them in the beginning because it was seen as a weird thing. Like, why would you want? It was like when the first keyboards debuted, and people were like kind of shocked and awed by it. Meaning the first synthesizers, they're kind of shocked and awed by it. Like, what is this for? This is not something we normally use.
And so, relative to a lot of other professional gear, they were inexpensive.
Yeah.
So if you were to go out and buy at that time, of course it sounds shocking, but I think the price of a Les Paul was like $250 or $300.
Yeah, it was like $300 or $350. Yeah.
They didn't come with a case. You had to pay like an extra $40 or $50 for the case.
Yeah.
So, when they say original case, it was because they originally bought a case, which was separate. We kind of look at those times with this reverence of, awe, and we forget that it was not very standard.
Nobody gave a crap about this stuff when it was coming out.
Oh, hey, are you done sanding those necks, Bob? We're heading out to the bar. Are you done sanding that neck? Yeah, I'm done.
yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this damn thing. Next thing you know, it's on Peter Green's Les Paul, and that's how the pickups got wound backwards.
Yeah, or all this other stuff that happened. I mean, Bernie Marsden's was the Beast. You said,
Yeah, he's
um,
got the beast.
yeah, he's got the Beast. Let's see, Clapton had one. Joe Walsh famously gave or sold his to somebody else. All these, I think it was Jimmy Page, right? Didn't Joe Walsh
Yeah,
sell
so
his to Jimmy
I
Page
think
or something?
somehow it ended up in Jimmy Page's hands or something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like that. But anyway, so all these Les Pauls that were going around, there was only like a couple hundred of them.
Yeah,
But
they
they
were just getting traded back and forth.
But
It
they
was
were, yeah.
hilarious.
And so these guys, they all knew each other. Yeah, man, you got a hit of acid for me. Yeah, you can play this time. I mean, it was. You want to believe
Yeah,
that didn't
they
happen, but
didn't
that was
care.
reality.
They didn't care that the stuff was. They had no idea that any of the market share stuff was going to happen with these instruments.
Yeah,
No, the only one that might have known, and the only reason I say might have known because he was probably the best businessman out of the entire lot was Jimmy Page,
Page. Yeah,
because he stockpiled stuff he never even played, and
yeah,
it was like, why was he doing that?
yeah.
Part of it was trade secret, like the Supros he was buying was like a trade secret thing, but the other thing that he was stockpiling was Les Pauls.
Yeah.
He has a bunch of them. And they're all sitting in warehouses and stuff in England. I've heard that in various places he has over 1,000 of them.
Somebody else
And they're
that
all like period Les Pauls, so they're worth $12,000-$13,000 in a lot of cases. And some of them are worth way more than that.
somebody else that stockpiled a lot of that stuff was Rick Nielsen.
Yeah, he's got the crazy ones with the was it the Aldo Les Pauls or whatever.
Yeah,
He's got a bunch of them, I
yeah.
guess.
He's got more Aldo Nova Les Pauls than
Aldo Nova himself does.
It's
Yeah,
like I think there's only like 10, and like 8 of them are with
Rick Nielsen.
Rick
Yeah,
Nielsen. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but not by much.
yeah.
I don't think there were 50 made. I honestly don't. I don't know if there were 20
Yeah, it's a
made.
very, very small number, and from my understanding, it's like it's such a small number that they actually don't know how many of them exist anymore
Yeah, yeah,
because they probably lost one or two here and there
yeah.
to damage and that kind of thing. Um,
Yeah, if there was a Les Paul that I want knocked off, that would be the one.
yeah, that's
That
not one
hockey
to
stick
do.
Les Paul.
They're ugly as sin
I
too. I mean, I
know.
know it was a totally functional,
Yep.
like it was done for function, but I was
Yeah.
like, God, that's ugly. Like, what
That's
were you thinking?
it's the
Um,
Kramer hockey stick headstock on a Les Paul. And a lot of people think, I mean, even like I said, even the Gibson forums, I'll see it. They'll be like, "Oh, that's got to be a fake," or "Who stuck this Kramer
yeah,
headstock?"
yeah,
No,
yeah.
that is a Aldo. Then you go, "That's an Aldo Nova signature Les Paul." And people go, "Who the fuck is Aldo Nova?"
Well, and the vast majority of people that like would say that like have never seen an Aldo Nova ever
Yeah,
go through their hands. Even Gibson, I bet Gibson has one
yeah. If they have any, they have
if
one.
they have any because that was such a small run.
There's only like a few real collectors in the Les Paul. I mean, other than like
That's
Bonamassa,
the 59.
Page.
Oh, you're talking about the people that collect them, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there are
Bonamassa,
people that collect
Page.
them.
Um,
There are private collectors too, believe it or
yeah,
not.
there's some private collectors. But
You
there's
got to
some.
be rich.
Yeah, you got to have a lot of money, and these guys are collecting them to make mortgage payments and stuff like that later.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
but
It's like
Norm's Rare Guitar. That's how he got started.
yeah. Well,
It's
he got started with he had a room of what was junk, and
yes,
then ended up turning it into gold because the vintage guitar boom happened in the early '90s.
that's right.
Which
And one of his biggest early ones was I want to say the Rosewood Telly that um, was a
George Harrison,
the Harrison one.
yeah,
Um, so he's one of those people. He was like, I don't know why I want to hang on to these because his wife was like, get these out of here, and he was like,
he had a back room. Like that was the whole thing. Was like I have all the crappy stuff that nobody wants in the back room, and then
yep,
eventually it was like people were showing up and they were like, "We want to see the back room."
yeah,
It was like, wait a minute, people actually want this stuff,
yeah,
and then the prices start going up, and then it's like that's how that happens.
yeah,
But he's an interesting cat. I'd love to get him on the show. I'd love to pick his brain for a little bit about what it's like to be a vintage guitar retailer.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Him, the guys at Mandy's Music were in it at that time. Of course, Norm is still at it.
mhm.
Wildwood is still at it, but Yeah, there's a lot of private collectors. Sometimes I'll see these posts and I'm like, how in the heck? You've got to have a lot of money because it's a lot of money tied up in those
Or
things.
they're just making payments. And like I know of people that around here who have had a 59 Les Paul. And it's like, how did you ever buy? They mortgaged their house and they paid $500 a month, just to have a Les Paul.
That's crazy. And
you know,
and to have a Les Paul that you could never
yeah.
play
Oh, I don't
anywhere.
know. I think some of the guys I know wouldn't think twice about gigging it, but it's like the dumbest thing in the world if you do that. Like,
There's a guy in this area that only one that I know of personally. I'm sure there's more than one collector in the area, but there's this one guy I know, um, and he's got some crazy money, but you would
yeah, I
never
think we talked about him before. I
yeah,
think
to
I know who
meet
you're
him.
talking about.
You'd never know it. He's this ragtag looking guy, he drives a Camaro,
Yeah, he plays
uh,
a 61 Strat and a
yeah,
and
and
a 58 Les Paul.
yeah, he's got yeah, and he's got some really good stuff. And every time something rare comes in, he's the first guy they call, you know,
Yeah,
um, locally. But
call that guy because he'll probably buy it.
yeah, yeah, and he sits and plays them. He doesn't just look at him and go, oh, let's see, this. He sits and he'll be with that guitar for 3 or 4 hours on an amp, um, plugged in playing. So he doesn't just touch it. Like I said, we had that $40,000 Strat come through. But that's the thing that collectors can do, though. They can sell a really really expensive piece and to get something else. So that's tough. I I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I want to play my guitar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything that I want. I really don't want to have. I mean, I know people that have $10,000 guitars laying around.
Yep.
They got like two or three of them. And it's like I just don't want to do that. Like I can't live in a world where I have bad enough problems. So, like this is part of the camper conversation. I have bad enough problems dealing with the anxiety of knowing I have 20 something $100 wrapped up into something, and that investment is dwindling as time goes on. Like I have a tough enough time dealing with that, and I can't imagine what it would feel like owning a $10,000 guitar where I'm taking a piece of plastic with a sharp edge and banging it into it as hard as I can, 2 or 3 nights a week. Like the nags thing, we saw some nags when I was in Michigan, and I was like,
Wow.
why? Why would you buy a nags? It's gross.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're super expensive. Well, we've gone.
Also, apparently, all the I know we're over. I wanted to finish one more thought. Apparently, the Michigan trip, what we realized was that everybody wants Railhammer pickups apparently because all of the local builders there use Railhammer pickups, and I'm like, that's like the last pickup I would want. I'm like, what?
Wow.
What the hell? Probably cheap and
Could
local.
be.
That's
Could
that's my
be.
guess.
Yeah. Well, Nick definitely needs to be their replacement.
That's why I was saying like he needs to get in there. Like, screw this
Yeah, I don't
freaking
know if he wants
Railhammer
to.
crap.
I mean, I can't speak for him, but I wonder if he wants that kind of work, that kind of.
No, but he wouldn't mind taking on
Yeah.
a small run for somebody or something. And then that's something he was.
I thought
I think I'm speaking for him.
yeah.
He can come on the show and tell us if he wants to.
I
Um,
I thought about getting what's the guy's name? Jeff Sen, right? That builds tellies for people in Nashville. Thought about doing
yeah,
a Jeff
he's
Sen.
one of them.
It's a lot more affordable than I thought it would be.
It's a lot cheaper than that $6,000 Adam Jones
Jeez,
silver
12,000.